So I'm going to call the July Southwest Light Rail Project Disadvantaged Business and Workforce Advisory Committee to order. And I just want to mention that Governor Walz declared a peacetime emergency on March 13th, 2020 in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. He also issued several subsequent orders. And the Minnesota Open Meeting Law permits public bodies to conduct meetings by telephone or other electronic means if the presiding officer, chief legal counsel, chief administrative officer determines that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent because of a health pandemic or an emergency declared by the governor under Chapter 12, Minnesota Statute 13D.021, Subdivision 1. As a result of the governor's declaration, the chair of the Metropolitan Council. I am getting an echo. If we could mute, if folks can mute until they're talking, that would, I think, help a lot. The council chair determined that it was not prudent to conduct in-person meetings, and the council has conducted meetings electronically pursuant to that Minnesota statute. And while the peacetime emergency has ended, June 30th, 11:59 p.m., the pandemic has not. As Delta and other variants spread, we must remain vigilant. Therefore, until further notice, the Metropolitan Council Chair has determined that because of this health pandemic, that conducting in-person meetings of the council or any of its committees or advisory committees is not practical or prudent. It is unfeasible for a member of the council or its committees, the regional administrator, or the general counsel to be present at the regular meeting locations, and it is not feasible for the public to attend council meetings in person, provided that beginning August 1st, 2021, the council will permit public comment from a remote location as required by law. The council and its committees and advisory committees will hold their meetings by telephone or other electronic means through at least Labor Day 2021, and those meetings will be conducted in accordance with Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021. The public will continue to be notified of upcoming meetings through the council's website, and to the extent practical, the council will endeavor to allow the public to monitor the meetings electronically from a remote location. And with that, we thank you all for your patience as we continue to address the challenges ahead. And with that, I will turn it over to Salima for the roll call.
Thank you very much, Ashanti. And thank you for the reminder that we'll all stay on mute except for the person speaking to avoid the echo. We will start with the roll call now. Barry or Jenny from Building Trades?
I'm here, thanks.
Hi, Barry, welcome. Gilbert from Hennepin County? Or Eric?
Yeah.
Was that you, Gilbert, or Eric?
Eric speaking.
Oh, welcome, Eric.
But Gilbert is waving.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm on a different portal to see the names. Apologize. Marvin Smith from NAMC?
Here, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Marvin. Becky Brink on behalf of Goodwill Easter Seals.
Good afternoon. I'm here.
Good afternoon. Julie Brecky from Hired.
Good afternoon, everyone. Julie's here.
Hi, Julie. Welcome. Melanie Williams, Twin Cities Rise. Tony O'Brien, Summit Academy.
Here.
Hi, Tony. Welcome. Mel or Maura from Hire, Minnesota.
Maura's here.
Welcome, Maura. Leslie or Dan from City of Minneapolis.
Hi, everyone. I'm here.
Welcome, Leslie. John O'Phelan or Dave from Ramsey County. Mary Schmidt from MnDOT.
Yep, Mary's here. Thank you.
Welcome, Mary. Barb Lau, Association of Women Contractors.
Barb and Kendra are both present.
Oh, welcome, Kendra. Welcome, Barb. Dale and Krista from Lunda.
Hi, guys. No Dale today, though.
Hi.
He's in a meeting.
Okay. Anybody else from your team today?
From the Lunda team, no, but I think Katie is on. I do see Katie on also.
Yep, I'm here from Metropolitan.
Hi, welcome, Katie. And Chris or Mike from APJV?
Yep, Chris is here. Hello.
Hello,
Welcome.
Mike's here.
Oh, welcome, Mike.
Okay, I'm good.
Both Elaine and Salima are here from MDHR. We have Ashanti. Sam here today?
No, Sam's not here.
Okay. Mahad and John are here. Anyone else from Met Council?
Brian Runzel.
Hi, Brian. Welcome.
Aaron Costa.
From Ellis Black, Brian or Andy here? Or anyone here from Ellis Black? Okay.
I'm not seeing anyone.
Okay, good to know. Aaron, did I hear you from Building Strong Communities?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Hi, welcome, Aaron. Anyone else on the call that we would like to register on our roll call?
There's also
Eli.
Eli.
Got it. I got you, Eli. Thank you.
Hello.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. If somebody from Ellis Black does come, Elaine, please feel free to send it to me in chat so I can make sure that it's documented. We're just referring everyone to their handouts. The first document in the handout is the meeting summary of the previous meeting, which was held in June. If you can please review it and let us know if there's any edits, additions, or corrections so that we can make them promptly. Thank you very much. Ashanti? Ashanti, we can't hear you.
I think it helps to unmute. Thank you, Salima. First on the agenda, we have an update from Building Strong Communities. Aaron Koski and Barry Davies, I believe, are here.
Thank you, Ashante. I'll start and I'll definitely expect Barry to contribute. Next slide. And this has been our standard update slide as we continue to work with those participants who have entered an apprenticeship. And we still have a number who are either working in a position that ideally will lead to an apprenticeship or are still pursuing. Very happy with some of the successes our participants have achieved so far. And we, believe it or not, are beginning to think about what the future of this program is and looking to strengthen its impact on council projects like Southwest Light Rail. I think we only have one slide, this slide. So Barry, do you have any other comments to provide?
Just that we're continuing to work through this and we have kind of reached a little plateau where it's getting harder and harder to find opportunities for the participants that are left. And, you know, we're continuing to work with them to get their applications out and to get out and meet contractors and try to get their name out there. But we have kind of hit a lull. And like Aaron said, this is, you know, not over, but the training is done, the coursework is done, and it's time to start thinking about 2022 already. And it's hard to believe how fast time goes, but before you know it, it will be 2022. So we have to be ready for next year.
Barry, this is Ashanti. Is there any expectation as we get into July and peak construction time in Minnesota, at least, that as the bench is clear, that more companies will reach out to building strong communities?
That's what we're hoping. That's why kind of the time frame of when we finish the program. So we got the participants ready at the beginning of the season. There will be a little uptick here, but if they don't get placed pretty soon, it'll be starting to wind down. So we're hopeful for the next couple months to get more opportunities for those that haven't had them yet.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee members for the Building Strong Communities team?
I just have something quick to add to it. I had a meeting the other day with Jenny Winkler, and as well as we had a subcontractor present, our monthly meeting yesterday, where we had our representative from Building Strong, which are going to continue to be a part of our subcontractor meeting. But what we're going to be doing, you guys, for the light rail project, at least for the civil, because of our great partnership with Building Strong Communities and how can we continue to increase our participation, with the program, but also with their individuals, is we're going to be continually providing that list of candidates directly to our subcontractors now. It's something we haven't, we didn't really talk about before, but we're like, hey, what are we missing with connecting light rail contractors to the program? And so moving forward, we are going to be providing on a regular basis, an email blast to those subcontractors and to our own team regarding, who's available, and their resumes and stuff. So I don't know if the rest of the team knew that, but that's one of the things that we talked about for our action plans moving forward. And I think it'll hopefully provide a great, continuation of the growth for those individuals in the program. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Krista. Next on the agenda, we have a SWLRT project update. Brian Renzel.
Yes, Ashanti, I'll give that. So we could go to the next slide, slide 6. Okay. Sorry, I got to clear one of my things on my screen. Okay. So this is a picture of our southwest. So I'm going to start in the southwest part of the project and work down to downtown Minneapolis. So this is a picture of our southwest station. The vertical construction of the parking garage is what you see here. Contractor's getting very close to topping out this parking garage structure. We expect to have that done, topped out by the end of the month. They're also coming along pretty well. It's hard to see behind the equipment there, but to the left is the Southwest Transit bus waiting area, and so that structure is also coming along nicely. We hope to be working inside that through the winter time. But yeah, this is the current status of Southwest Station. The station's actually inside this parking structure, so that work, once we top out, they'll be starting to work on the station in there too. Next slide. This is our Prairie Center Drive bridge. This is, as it's called, it's the bridge over Prairie Center Drive. And what we're doing here is we're installing the this rail that goes on this bridge is called direct fixation track. So it's installed on concrete block. The rail is installed on top of concrete blocks. And in this photo, they're working on installing pouring the plinths. So this is the bridge on our project that's the farthest along, and it will be the first that should have all of its rail installed here later this summer. Slide 8. This is our Eden Prairie Town Center station. Just a picture of the current status of the station, particularly the structural steel and the metal roofing. This station was added by change order, and they've made some significant progress on this station. Slide 9. This is our Shady Oak, the bridge over Shady Oak Road, and also over Highway 212. So they're working on decking this bridge in this structure in this picture. We kind of had a big milestone within the last month. I believe it was in June, actually. We set the big curved steel bridge girders over Highway 212, which required us to shut down that Highway 212 for almost a week. So that was kind of a big milestone for this bridge, and they're going to continue working on decking the rest of this year. Slide 10. This is our Smetana-Felto road bridges, and they've got the deck on the bridge over Smetana there, kind of in the left. You can barely see the bridge, the decking, and what they're working on is starting the abutments for the bridge over Felto, which is their kind of was what they're working on in the foreground of this picture. Slide 11. So this is our Excelsior, the bridge, LRT bridge over Excelsior Boulevard. Our cantilever form traveler construction. This is a picture of one of our form travelers under the segments under construction. They're working on a few of these at a time. It takes them about a week to advance the traveler, get the rebar set in a concrete poured, and so this is just a picture of them in the process of doing that. Slide 12. It's a picture of inside the form travelers, what the rebar looks like inside that form traveler system. Slide 13. This is at Louisiana Avenue. So we've got the pedestrian bridge finished here. The freight rail bridge, you can kind of see a little piece of that in the right of that photo behind the crane. And so what the crews are working on here is the light rail bridge. These are the bridge piers in the center of the road. These piers are actually now done, and they're working on driving all the piles for the abutments on either side of the road. So we just started on this bridge not that long ago because we had to build that freight. The freight bridge used to be in the location where the light rail bridge is being built now. So we got that bridge built and freight rail moved to the new bridge, which allowed us to start this light rail bridge. Slide 14. This is a picture of our bridge construction at Cedar Lake Channel. And what you can see here is abutment work happening on either side of the Cedar Lake Channel. The next phase for us is to start construction of the false work for the span that goes between these two abutments. This is a single span bridge. We don't have any center piers like the freight bridge there in the background's got some piers. This bridge does not have that. It's got just two abutments and then a span between. And so the contractor is going to be they're going to drive some piles in the middle of the channel and build some temporary false work up, and which will support then the formwork we got to use to build the light rail bridge across the channel. Slide 15. This is a picture of our West 21st Street station, structural steel work happening. Slide 16. So this is we've got quite a few of these shafts. This is for folks who remember, earlier this year we executed a change order for the corridor protection barrier, which separates light rail from the BNSF tracks. You can those tracks in the background of the photo are BNSF tracks, and so we've got many. There's shaft construction is going furiously. I believe this photo here is taken under 94. Our low clearance drill rig drilling drilled shafts for that corridor protection barrier. So we have not started wall panels yet, but contractors doing the drilled shafts for this wall right now. Slide 17. This is a picture of our Glenwood. It's actually a picture of a couple different things. On the left there is our LRT bridge that goes. It intersects the Glenwood Avenue bridge, and kind of to the right there is the start of a work platform because we're starting to get working on the Glenwood East abutments. So there's a lot of work happening in this downtown Glenwood area part of our project. Slide 18. So I was going to show you a few pictures of our Franklin OMF project. This is being done by LS Black. So slide 19. This is a picture of the mechanical bay construction, and what you see on the left there is that's our mezzanine tool elevator that will bring tools up and down from the mezzanine. And on the right there is just some mechanical work that's happening. Slide 20. This is curb and paving for the storage track that's on the west side of the operations and maintenance facility, and we are, as you can see in this picture, storing trains now on this on the new west runner track that we've built out there. Slide 21. A few photos from Systems. Systems is not working in the field yet, but we've got a lot of factory work going on. So this is our traction power substation construction in the factory. They're specifically installing switchgear in that, and this is the first traction power substation. It will actually be delivered to the Franklin OMF facility. That's the first place. That's the first place we install a traction power substation. So that will happen later this year. But this is a picture of in factory production. Slide 23. This is a picture of what it looks like to do factory acceptance testing. Lots of laptops are involved with factory testing. Slide 24. Oh, slide, those are it for the slides for me. Shanti.
Any questions for the project office team? Thank you, Brian. All right, next on the agenda is our DBE achievement reporting, beginning with John Tao.
Thank you. All right, we have slide 25 here, and this is the DBE achievement as of May 31st. You know, it's not something new, but you know, all of our contracts are exceeding their goals and doing very well. Since last month, what we did was we went out to the Franklin O&M site and conducted some DBE site interviews with some of the DBEs out there in the field doing work. So good news is that a lot of them have, you know, been doing well, and you know, nobody, you know, informed us of any issues or concerns. They've are doing really good work out there in the Franklin project, and you know, just moving along. This contract is about at a halfway point, so you know, and then there are some change orders that are involved in there. So we are continuing to watch that as these change orders continue on to see if there's contract increases in the DBE contracts to accompany the contract changes. So that is where we are at. And then I will pass it back to Ashanti.
And I'm going to pass it to LMJV, to Krista.
Yep, and I'm going to catch that pass, hopefully.
All right.
So, participation this last month, again, remains strong and heavy for both the civil contract and for our the stations. Sorry, I almost said bridges, you guys. I was typing the word bridge all day today. But there's one thing on here, and I guess my slide didn't get switched, but it's still going to be a really cool thing. And John and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago. You note that Big G is still on the list. They are actually being taken off the list because they have been, and it's sad. Like I told John the other day, I don't want to take the name off. I just want to include the other. But Big G and their team and everything has been adopted. I'm going to use that proactive word, adopted, by J&L Job Site Solutions. Another great new, you know, this part of it, this Job Site Solutions part of their name, great DBE. So it is being, you know, their contract is being continued forward with a DBE contractor. So that'll be great. So a lot of you guys have heard of the name J&L. And so they've added to their scope and everything, and it's really exciting. So there's that for that page. And seeing Mavo, go to the next slide, please. Yep, we didn't get Mavo on this one either, and it's on my change, but it will be. Mavo Concrete Sawing is also on here for DBE. But like you saw in John's report, the DBE numbers, they're coming on great, and they will remain above the goal, which is so exciting from all the years, you know, of working with our DBEs. So next slide, please. Ta-da, look at that. Our highlight this month, you guys, and they weren't available, and I wish I could have had them on here just because of the great work that they're doing. We have standard contracting on here, and I do believe maybe about a year ago they were on also, but There's some, we have a list moving forward, but look at what an amazing scope of work they have on this project and are exceeding all expectations. Their current contract value, is 8.7, which is a beautiful piece. And I also wanted to highlight their workforce participation, you guys. The reason why is, of course, you can see they're larger numbers than a lot of them. But what's really cool, and I should have showed from the beginning of the project to now, their participation continues to improve, which is really, really great. And they just have such a proactive, wonderful team on the project. So that's who we highlighted this month. And then the next slide, please. Here's our little update on the change orders. So as of June 15th, it's 151 million, and our, like John said, our DB, job to date participation is over 20, just over 20%, and the goal is 16%. So it's a wonderful piece. I love it, and our DBEs are rocking it. So thank you, guys. Any questions? Oh, thank you.
Thanks. And before Aldridge Parsons, I just wanted to echo what Krista just highlighted in terms of standards, workforce participation. I know a lot of times we promote and say, hey, if you bring DBEs and other certified businesses onto the project, they'll bring the workforce with them. And we don't always see that, but I know their numbers are not at the 32 and 20, but I think in terms of what they are achieving is significant and higher than most of the times of what we see on projects. So I commend them and glad that they're doing well and performing well. Thank you. Aldridge Parsons.
Hello, everyone. This is Chris Gannon. I'm the PM for APJV on the systems project. Don't have a whole lot of new items to present this month. You've seen this slide previously. So we're scheduled to be starting the traction power foundations. It's probably going to be, we were targeting earlier July, but now it's going to be late July, August timeframe. And that's going to be our 3 DBE subcontractors, DAOURN, Bald Eagle, and Multron. MBE is going to be doing the trucking, and then IMO doing pre-construction. And then long-term, Gunner, it's not on the slide, but I'll have it next month, probably end of August, September. Gunner should be back out doing station work. One of the slides that Brian presented was the West 21st station. Once that gets a little bit further along, that's the next spot for Gunner to start doing some comm work at that station. Next slide, please. So this is the update on our change orders. So we negotiated a significant change order with the council on the systems project for storage of a lot of the systems material while we wait to get access to on the right of way. And I'm happy to say that we were able to meet our DBE goal or exceed our DBE goal on that change order with Gunner. Their portion of that change order was a little over $1.2 million. So I showed that on this slide. So we were happy about that. So you can see our change order participation for the DBEs is just over 21%. And you can see the DBE job participation to date. Next slide, please. I think that was it for us. Does anybody have any questions? All right, thank you.
All right, so hopefully someone from LS Black has joined as of now.
Yes, Brian, we've been here.
for most of this, but yeah, you can go ahead to the next slide and we can update best we can. So I'll just give a quick update here. So there's our current contract amount, just shy of 40 there, 39.18. Current contract for DBE is tracking at that 7.5, which puts us at about 19%. And then the next line there is kind of our billing through the end of May, right at 29 million. And our DBE team is at 5.8 of that, so tracking roughly the same, which is good. Hopefully that continues to change. If we do get some more updates, or sorry, change orders, that we can involve our DBE team as much as possible and keep that that percentage tracking as is. Next slide, please. Not a lot of new stuff here, but just ongoing participation from GoFetch, who's got a big portion of our DBE. Nakasone Painting has a big scope that's upcoming as we transition toward, I'll call it finishes or interior work, which is nice. And then some of the other players we have out quite a bit, Bald Eagle, Camacho is going to finish up here. Always Stone and Tile when we get into some interior. MTech Designs for Steel Fab has been nice because of the changes we have had. We've been able to use them for the added scope. And then with Soda, again, kind of moving and supplying some lockers interior, and then Beatzik caulking, again, finishing up some scopes, they'll be out quite a bit. So that's a pretty good example of some of the DBE crew that we'll have out on site here as we gear up toward the finish line. So next slide. How was that? Any questions for the Franklin project?
Trying to get here, hold on. Hey, it's Barb. I'm just wondering, I know, John, you and I, we've worked on that one contractor, et cetera, and from what I'm understanding, change order approval and change order pay time and stuff is still really lagging, and we're still at about 80 days. Is there anything, any solution to kind of, how long is it going to take for this to get better?
Well, I would say each issue is slightly different because some of the change orders have different components that need to be included with it. So I recall that some of the change orders were missing documents, so that's usually why things have been kicked back. So I mean, as far as like timeline, I try to be as transparent as possible. If there are DBEs that are concerned about like what's the status of this pay cycle or this particular change order, they can reach out to me, and then I will look it up in the system and let them know like where it's at and whose court it's in. But aside from that, I know that our cars are working with the prime contractors to try to expedite the negotiations and the review process of payment applications. I don't know if any of the prime contractors maybe have anything more to say about change orders and any thoughts on how they can expedite it, but when it's ready to be reviewed, we on the council side review it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to say that, when we have change orders from December still, that's money out of those DBE's pockets. And this is what's going to get us into trouble if we're not staying on top of it. And so there's my constant preach, as you've heard before, but when it's affecting my DBE members, I get a little bit mama bear.
Yeah, Barb, this is Brian with Ellis Black out at Franklin, and we have this frustration a little bit with both DBEs and any of our smaller contractors. We've got, fortunately, our contract has some small print that says we have to proceed with work before the change order is obviously issued, addressed, and finalized. So we do have some direction from our car or the council to proceed with work. Pricing does take, call it a couple weeks, a month to put in, and then there's a back and forth of a month or two at least just to vet it out between the ICE and internal and breakdown and review of those costs. Once it's then finally approved, it gets onto a billing cycle, then they can bill for it. Then it's 60 days to get a payment. So we're talking, 4, 5, 6 months before people see payments. And when they're small contractors, they get really frustrated. We try to do our best to keep them afloat, but it's tough.
for that. Regular pay apps are still at about 80, and just want to make sure that we're all aware that that's what's going on too still.
Thank you. We can move now to the workforce participation report. Elaine?
Hi, everyone. For the month of May, the civil contract log, yes? I'm getting a lot of feedback.
We can request folks to mute. That would really help.
Elaine, are you logged in twice?
I might be.
And that's what's causing the echo. I think I'm going to get rid of one of them.
Thank you.
Let's see. Try. We now talk. I see something.
Okay. Yes, it is. Thank you, Jason. Okay, let me start again. For the month of May, the civil contract logged 100,674 hours. For women, they came in at 7.86%, and they're at 8.17% overall. For POCI, they came in at 24.19%, and they're at 21.92% overall. The unspecified hours were 1.09%, and overall they're at 0.43%. Next slide, please. So the breakdown for the unspecified hours were 1,098 hours. White women worked 5,428 hours, or 5%. Women of color worked 2,482 hours, or 3%. Men of color worked 21,876 hours, 22%. And white men came in at 69,790 hours, or 69%. Next slide, please. For the civil contract, the trucking participation that is being counted since the start of the project. For MBE, it's 21,982 hours. For ZTS, 4,161 hours. And for rock on trucks, 683 hours. Next slide, please. On the systems contract in May, Aldridge Parsons worked 80 hours, and they have 349 hours since the start of their project. They haven't, as you all know, there's been a delay in that. There were no women that worked during the month, but they're at 22.06% overall. For people of color and indigenous people, they came in at 29%, and they're at 26.07% overall. Next slide, please. On the Franklin project, LS Black worked 7,299 hours, and since the start of the project, they have worked 70,207 hours. For women, there were 5.58%, and they're at 7.76 overall. For POCI, they are at 22.58%, and they're at 23.31% overall. Their unspecified hours are still a little high, but they're a lot better than they were last month. They came in at 10.69%, and they're at 4.71% overall. I just want to say LS Black did a good job of reaching out to its subcontractors to address the not specified hours. So they did come down. Next slide, please. So the breakdown on the Franklin project, there were 780 hours that were unspecified, and that's actually about half of what they were in April. It was 10.69%. White women worked 245 hours, or 3.36%. Women of color were 162 hours, or 2.22%. Men of color were 1,486 hours, 20.36%, and white men were 4,627 hours, or 63.39%. Next slide, please. I think that may be it. And I'll turn it over to Linda, or LMJV, excuse me.
Thanks, Elaine. Very much. So let's go to the next slide, you guys. And what's great to show is the amount of activities taking place regarding good faith efforts are really starting to get strong and heavy. Last month, there were quite a few planning meetings and such. You know, we have our regular meetings, but with our subcontractors, which are getting a little bit more fine-tuned and stuff, as well as our internal meeting with the team, you know, and the planning. So I go right into the next one on there regarding, you know, our upcoming hiring needs, you know, so that we know kind of what our expectations are with the different trades and stuff of our own part with the LMJV and stuff. We talked last month, because the timing was right, that the MnCon crew hiring event, 7th annual, was a chat hiring event this year, which was new for many of us, if not all of us, participating and everything. And it was highly attended, which was really nice to see. I know at least on the Lunda side, we had a couple we had about 10 people that we spoke with, but the different areas they wanted to go into weren't areas that Lunda needed to hire, but I did pass on them to the other trades, you know, the other contractors on the project that could possibly utilize them. So that was neat. And we also had our second part of our community partner opportunity, you know, organizations and stuff. That one was so dynamic, and we have a couple online right now that participated in it. And it was Summit Academy, it was Hired, and it was Helmets to Hard Hat. And to be able to give connections to our subcontractors with these great organizations, you know, just will continue to help grow the workforce development, you know, within the contractor side, which is great. We also had our first dynamic meeting with Dunwoody representatives, you know, in their construction division, which is really huge, to discuss the potential of partnering with them regarding maybe events and programs that they're already participating in, but which ones can we work together on creating for the light rail project. And it was a very great brainstorming meeting. Moving forward, we are going to be including building strong communities in all of that for it, which is exciting. But we're also going to be hopefully there's a couple individuals or organizations that will be bringing in on the initial idea part, and then as things are set, that's when we'll be bringing in the other trade partners, including our community, you know, organizations and our subcontractors. So, and actually, I might as well go right into it. We had our second meeting with them yesterday, Katie and I from CS McCrossin and myself, and again, what a dynamic meeting. So we're putting together kind of a tentative schedule moving forward of what those things can look like. But just to give you a taste, of what is in the works. The one that I think is going to be the neatest and coolest, where we can, and Selima and Elaine know I love saying this, is include you guys in on it. And that would be the LMJV and subs giving Dunwoody students presentation regarding what construction at a light rail, during a light rail project, does look like and what it all entails. Everywhere from the design, the creation, you know, the engineering, the bidding and all that stuff, throughout the construction management of a project. So you have that entity, because if they have their construction management program, you know, engineering, surveying and all that other stuff. But then they also have their mechanical, HVAC, electrical, those specialized divisions, and they have a large attendance and registration for those. So we'll be providing presentations regarding that. So we'll be reaching out to our subs and our partners even on here regarding that. But then after those presentations, it'll be followed by small segmented groups getting tours of those areas of that, you know, those presentations of construction, but at the project. So that's kind of an exciting piece there. And other things. So moving forward, there's going to be some great planning and great potential for everybody to participate in. There was a graduation. As you can see, you guys, there's great activities going on. Another big thing that we did as our own, you know, project team is the LMJV field employees all went through a virtual per tablet, per their form and tablets, their annual EEO and anti-harassment training. So that was very well attended, and really results were great because of it. Next slide, please. There we go. So this month's halfway over, but as you know, I told you we've already been doing some of this stuff. But the other thing is that Katie and I, along with our one of our safety representatives, will be doing our respectful workplace walkthrough talks in the next week and a half with the entire project. We're going to put our boots on and we're going to go get them, and I hope it's not a rain day. But anyways, it'll be kind of exciting. It's really fun to be able to give the field our faces, you know, instead of just hearing and everything. There will be. And then there is, let's see, DEED. That's great. I'm going to be meeting with Sylvia from DEED regarding the project and such. And also we're going to be ending the month, drum roll, no, just kidding, with our site meeting on the 27th with Elaine to go over reports and stuff from us and our lead subs, as well as kind of action plans and stuff. And it's followed by the site walkthrough and interviews on the 28th. So very excited for that. To see, I hope, a different change from responses from last year to this year. So those are those pieces. And next slide. There we go. Look at our numbers, you guys. They went up. There's no zeros. So it's very exciting. Of course, you know, we have our new hires, and what's neat about it that I like to see, I included office, because you guys, even though office, you know, and profession, you know, like whatever you want, there's so many different ways you can call it, and I'm sorry if I'm, you know, not classifying it the right way, but when it comes to, you know, field and office on a project, those office positions are extremely important also, because to see the change over the last 15 years, the diverse teams that we have on our projects are so exciting. And one of the things to be able to show is our office hires this last month, you guys. We brought on 2 new engineers to the project that are, one is a female POCI and the other is a male POCI. And then we also brought in a new accountant person, so Cody's not running alone, and that would be a female. So there's really neat to be able to see that. And someday I'll do a report on the entire picture, but then also note, you know, the other new hires, as well as our transfers. And the thing is, the transfer numbers are high for a good reason, huh, Selima? It's so fun. We have a couple projects that are in the works of ramping down. So instead of sending those individuals, you know, back to the hall, we're hoping to provide a lot of them, as you see here, the opportunity to come over to the light rail project. And yes, the one number is very high, you know, the white male number is high, and it's because of the trades and everything that needed to be filled at that time and that were being let go. And that's the operators that we are in the process. You know, we work very closely with Building Strong and with the 49ers and everything, you know, regarding, you know, the numbers there. So that's that report. You guys, any questions?
I do have a question. The numbers don't quite add up. I know that you added the office in there too, but then if you're just looking at the foreman, journeyman, and apprentices, it doesn't really line up with the 22 new hires and transfers.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
I
Up
think
above they do. Oh, what did I forget down below? Hold on a second. Hold on.
Yeah, I think that adds up. 22 and 22. I think what doesn't add up is the, yeah, that adds up. 22, 7 new hires, 15 transfers, and then 22 down below.
Yeah. So, Krista, the way, if from the way you explained it, first of all, really, really exciting to see the transfers from the other projects. It's so exciting to know that we're building people into careers. Do you think that in the new hires, the one white female, the one POCI male, and the one POCI female, they make up the 3 office?
That's yes.
Okay. So John, I don't know if that helps, but that's where they're coming from, is the new hires column.
Oh, I see. I see. So they're not really construction workers. So I get it.
And that's why at the beginning I stated, and I added down below where it says Office 3 so that you guys knew. Because Dale and I had a discussion regarding this. We really wanted to highlight that, and I will show it continually going forward too. I know we don't count them at, you know, regarding the goals and stuff, but you guys, and it's something I've talked about, you know, for many, and actually have advocates right on here too. And Shantae's heard it too, is when it comes to the 16 steps to affirmative action and everything, you know, when it comes to the advancement, which is one of those 16 steps, too often individuals are not advanced, and it's very disheartening because of their classification and being able to count them on a project. I've seen it happen in the past, not necessarily with my company, but with others, you know, and such. And I just want to celebrate the fact that, and even when we do transfers, I really want to show, and if there ever is an individual that transfers from maybe a field position to an office position, which we've had happen in, you know, past projects, to celebrate that and really show you guys, you know. So that's why I've included them. I just think it's an unseen piece that is really, I think, important. So if you guys don't want it on there, I can remove it and maybe do something else, but you just let me know. Thanks.
Krista, I have a question. This is Ashanti. Can you talk a little bit about how you went about assessing and providing those opportunities for the 5 apprentices? What type of recruitment went into that, specifically relative to reaching out either to community-based organizations, other training partners that have a history of providing women and people of color, building strong communities. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I did just what you did earlier. I almost forgot to unmute myself. Great question, Ashanti. Thank you so much for, you know, the asking and stuff. I work with a really great team with Linda, you know, regarding our field guys, our oh my gosh, excuse me, our vice president of workforce, you know, field development, and then as well as the specific trade representatives. And I know for 2, if not 3 of them, there were direct calls to the hall where we asked specifically, our first question is, if there are any available that we need to, and stuff. But what was great is a couple of them came from their training programs that are the partnership, like the labor's partnership with DEED and stuff. And I forget exactly who's all in those partnerships, like the cement finishers have their partnership with the Taro and stuff regarding their training and stuff. And I know a couple of them came from there, but not completely sure. And I would have to do a little bit more research. And what I can do and guarantee with you guys moving forward, instead of just giving numbers here, I will actually give you that information, provide that also, but off the top of my head, I only know about the 3. So I apologize about that. But I can also say right now, we don't have any on the project from the Building Strong Communities, but Dale and I just had a meeting yesterday regarding it. And we might be, and I'm hoping, having somebody who is currently in our yard from the program going on to the project. They might go to another project first because of the need for an apprentice in the, and it's an operator in the oiling role, that beginning stages for the apprenticeship for a 49er. But with the intent that hopefully as they move up there, because of the 3 years of this project, that when they become more certified, maybe in some equipment, they get transferred. But there again, instead of just providing you guys numbers moving forward, I will provide that information. How's that sound?
That sounds good. I think that we definitely
Dramatic
want
pause.
to see, I think we definitely want to see, just based on where we are at overall, definitely progress and definitely, intentionality in terms of making those connections with some of those organizations and entities that I mentioned. So appreciate you
Absolutely.
sharing the information and moving forward. Definitely think that's good to be able to show that.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I love the suggestion. I will definitely utilize it, Ashante. Thanks.
This is
Any
John
other
O'Phelan.
questions?
Yeah, this is
Hi,
John
John.
O'Phelan. Hey, Krista, how you doing?
I'm
Good.
great. How are you, hon?
Good. Sorry, I think I'm meeting my goals outside because we got ciders working out here, so we're doing good. Anyways, first of all, I haven't said nothing in about 3 months because I've been trying to let COVID, summer, all this stuff, like you said, Krista, this is the peak season. It's time to, start really addressing how are we doing on these goals. So I've taken a little time off from that. But the first thing I want to say is every time I sit in these meetings, I keep hearing Barb talk about this conversation about what's going on with these payments. And then it just seems like she says something and then, hey, we're going to get to it. And then we wait another month and it's the same conversation. So me on the workforce side, it's kind of getting a little tiring. It feels like the same circle of conversations that she's having. I think she's been really polite about it, but enough's enough. I mean, we're going to put people out of business and it's time to really get serious about it and take care of this. So that's my first comment with Barb. And then going back to Elaine and then a little bit of your work, I thought about the green line, the first green line that we all worked on, and the goals were 18 and 6. And we met our goals. We actually surpassed them. And you look at the goals this time, and we got 3220 here. And what are we sitting at 22 and 8? So, you look back at about 9 years of all this work, of the unions and all their hard outreach. I mean, incredible outreach. And, you had a list of all your outreach and community organizations continuing to just pump out people of color and females, government putting money into programs like DEED and MnDOT, other stakeholders. What I haven't seen is companies actually do their part. And I'm going to go back to these companies, and I brought this up. I like I said, I waited. This has been since probably March I've spoken. And we tend to have like these union panelist discussions about why aren't the unions diversifying? And really, when you look at these companies, Minger, Pete's, Standard, you guys all think they're doing great. That's good then. Vite, Egan, Lunda, McCrossin. These are, I mean, 20,000+ hours of work. I mean, London McCrossin has got, I think London's 178,000, McCrossin's 159,000 hours. Just dismal goals. And I'm not impressed so far, and I just have to be outspoken about that, that after all these years, man, of 8 to 10 years of just hard work from so many people on this committee and our community, and we've only bumped the needle from 18 to 22 and from 6 to 8. It's kind of
How do we retain them though, John? And I'm going to jump in because
well,
and I
I'm
understand
still
and I
speaking. I'm still
appreciate it.
speaking. Okay, but I'm still speaking. So
I'm very
and
sorry.
I've held my breath since March, right? So I'm really surprised that our industry, after all this time and all this hard work, we've gone from 18 to 22 and from 6 to 8. And I think this is a really big reflection on all these contractors that just it appears that we might use somebody for a while, bump them for a goal, but we're not seeing this really good, consistent, long-term growth of that. You know, these large projects moving past. I mean, from 18 to 22, a 4% increase after 8 to 10 years of this hard work. It's kind of it's a little depressing, and I think we have a lot more work to do. And I would love to see a panelist discussion with Pete, Minger, Veit, Egan, Lunda, and McCross, and have the same conversations as we've had with the unions, and put them through the same conversations, because this is not okay, and it is down to the contractors to retain and hold them and start moving forward with it. And that's my comment for the day.
I appreciate it, John, and you know where my feelings are right there with it. You know, and I did put it in the chat. And I hate to say it, you guys, I have a compliance harassment piece that I'm going to be jumping onto, but I can't leave this because this is why I left my home to come back, because the voice needs to be continued and heard. Our retainage is the #1 problem in our industry, and nobody yet, we could talk all we want, you guys, but we need to provide action solutions as a team. And to have that, not just a panel, but I think an ongoing group to provide ideas like we did with recruitment, and to put those ideas into actions is what I'd like to recommend. And if you want to look at our goals right now for the project, we just got off COVID, you guys, so please let's keep looking as the numbers continue to increase on this project. Okay, I am putting my efforts and my word moving forward. So, and I am now getting our subs involved in a monthly basis. Up until 3 months ago, we just did a checklist for our subs. That's not okay. You know, we are now asking them for their good faith efforts and their plans and stuff, and we are holding them accountable. And I will continue to report this to you guys more than what's done before. That is my commitment to this team online today. So, and please reach out to me, you guys. I'm here. I'm open. Does anybody have any questions right now regarding what I just said?
Only to let you know that this is not a personal about you or London.
Oh,
this
I
is
know
about
that.
an industry-wide thing, just so you're aware. Yeah.
I'm right there with you, John. And I'm glad you brought it up. I appreciate it very much.
I'd say this is Brian Renzel. I guess I would like to respond to the pay app issue, because remember, we did talk about this last fall, and I'm looking in our system right now, and back last fall, yeah, in December, we had one that was took 80 days to pay, and a bunch that are in the 60s, but I'm going to read you the last 6 pay apps. We have a 30-day, 35, 32, 35, 25, 35, 35. So I guess I do take exception. I think we have made some significant progress on pay app paying. Change orders remain a challenge. There's a lot of change orders on the job, but even those numbers, we've through March of this year, we processed as many change orders through March as we did all of last year. So I guess I do take a little bit of exception, because pay app processing, we made some changes that we committed to do, and so we took some specific action, and the record reflects that we've halved our payment time, and those numbers are from the civil contract. The processing time on the on the OMF contract is pretty similar to that. It's not that, it's in the 30 range. So I guess I think council has taken the action that it committed to doing, and we've seen results.
Thanks, Brian. And then also, thanks, John, as well, for bringing that perspective forward. I appreciate it. It also means that I don't always have to be the one to bring that perspective forward. But I will say this in terms of something that Krista said and others are aware of. This is definitely an industry effort, an issue relative to workforce, and especially, giving the information and data that John shared with us several times. And if we know that in our apprenticeship programs, that women percent is at 8%, and we're not doing something collectively now to address that, I don't know how we expect to get to 20% if we're not addressing that industry ride right now. So yes, I do think standard being at over 16%, double of what's in our apprenticeship programs, is doing well and making significant progress. But I also want to say that we do have community-based organizations, training partners, building strong communities who also had significant women participation in their program. We have to make sure that we hold these contractors accountable in terms of reaching out to those entities that we know have a history of producing candidates and making sure that we can get them in on these projects. And with that, I think we should probably move on in the sake of time. Go ahead, Salima.
Thank you. We can move on to the next slide.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is Mike Tony from the APJV. I'm hoping you can hear me okay. Yes? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, thanks, Salima. Again, it's the same story, and we've seen this slide before, but APJV, back one. Thank you. The APJV, is not going to really. We worked 80 hours in the month of May. I think there were 5 employees that worked total, so that's an average of 16 hours each. We worked another whopping 38 hours in June. We're hoping to start in July, and we're coming up the end of July, early August maybe. But the real work's going to start beginning in the spring of 2021. What we're doing this year in 2022, what we're doing here in 2021 is just going to be piecemeal. It's going to be really, really small work. But we participated in the Metro Regional Construction Virtual Hiring Event June 9th, and we had our meeting with the Minnesota Department of Human Rights on June 22nd, and we outlined that we anticipate 200,000 hours in the project, and today we have 350, so we're less than 0.2% of hours worked on the project. So really, we haven't even scratched the surface yet. We're just sharpening our pencils. We had our preliminary meetings. We're going to have preliminary meetings with a firm that's Agility Resources. They're out of South Dakota. They've worked with Local 160 recently, and they have several women, and it's an Indian firm, and we're trying to get them DBE certified and talk to their workforce. They had a couple of master electricians that I spoke to at the regional construction hiring event who worked with Aldridge back in 2013 and really, would like to come back with their company and her team. And they've worked with 160 in the gas side of the business. And so there's a lot of opportunities there. It's still preliminary, but we're talking, and that was exciting. We're kind of scheduled to have our third meeting, as Krista calls the three-headed something, and that's going to be with our local unions and CBOs. The next one's going to be with our local unions in August, and we're having mock interviews in person on August 13th with Summit Academy. So I'm looking forward to getting and seeing Summit Academy again and talking to the people in their classrooms, setting up things for the fall, setting up tours for the job sites when we get out there, and work with the unions and get up there and meet some union reps. So things are starting to open up a little bit, which is exciting, and I'm excited to do, field trips, come out, introduce, meet some people, see what we're doing, But right now, we're still wait and see. So that's where we're at. Any questions?
Thank you for your presentation. We can go to the next slide. Thank you.
Thanks.
Andy, will you be presenting or Brian?
And I can. We're having a little bit of struggle with our connectivity. I can't see the screen, but I'll do my best here. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. You can go to that
Yes, we
first
can hear you.
slide, please.
The slide is up. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. It must be lagging here. I can't see it yet. Just give me 1 second. It'll pop up. There we go. All right. So out at Franklin, I'll run through this quick. We've had our good faith meetings with MDHR. I think that was actually yesterday. So those are good. I mean, we're trying to be very transparent with them, kind of open and transparent with who some of our trouble contractors are, who's doing the best they can, who's got some action items, and et cetera. So it's good to kind of have an open book and share, good experiences, bad experiences, and what we can do to correct things. So that was just yesterday. We'll do that every month. I think it's already been talked about a couple times, some of these CBOs upcoming that Krista and her team has been super helpful with lining up. Bigger part is getting the rest of our team, trade partners, subcontractors involved with that as well. Just because the LS Black portion of workforce doesn't strictly add up to the numbers. We got a big team out there. The next two aren't anything new, but just reminder emails, pulling numbers and trying to be a little more authoritative with our teams about what they're going to do as far as action items to increase workforce as necessary. We do have a couple of added work or change order P&M work, which has been nice for a handful of activities, and we've talked to those contractors about the opportunity to utilize that to make sure we have good participation and potentially increase numbers if necessary. Then, I'm sorry, I'm off task here a little bit, but there's a couple other points that I wanted to make that we're transitioning at Franklin to a little bit more of traditional commercial interior work. And I guess we're looking at that optimistically, like there's potential for some more involvement from our POCI and women workforce. We don't have as much specialty work out in the yard, and where it's could be a little tougher. So we're optimistic about that. And then one other item too is we do have a fair portion of demo, which we get to do some self-performance from LS Black. But we've also communicated with our field operations manager to make sure we either hire as necessary or staff it appropriately to help with our POCI and women here toward the end of the project. We've got about 4 months till we wrap up, so we're trying to increase best we can and keep that meeting going with our subs as far as what they're going to do. And then back to the last bullet point was we did have that MDHR good faith meeting. We talked a little bit about the on-site meeting they had with some of our craft teams. Sounds like we may look at having another one. We'd be more than happy to have that team out and try to get some feedback from our craft teams, just unsolicited, straight, transparent, good discussions with them about how they're doing, what their thoughts are on the project. So a little bit of rambling there, but if anybody has any questions, let me know.
Yeah, we hope to get out there again. It was really nice to visit with the workers that we met and interview them, as well as to meet your team. And we hope to get back out there again and meet more of your workers. So we appreciate all the arrangements that you made for us to be able to do that.
No problem, Selena. Let us know. We'd love to have you out, and we can walk the site and chat with whomever necessary.
Thank you. We don't have any questions for LS Black. We could move on as we have a panel for us today from the Minnesota Department of Transportation's Office of Civil Rights Results and Transparency Subcommittee, who is here to present on their information. Ashanti, would you like to do the introductions?
Yes, thank you, Salima. Some of you may know because I know that some of you participate in MnDOT's collaborative, which is a similar committee to our DWOC committee. And they look at and assess a lot of the same challenges, goals, opportunities as we do in DWOC. And just from the sheer number and volume of construction projects and procurements that FHWA recipients and DOTs do, they have a lot of experience going and meeting challenges, figuring out solutions, identifying best practices because they do so many projects. And so we wanted to invite their subcommittee, the Results and Transparency, and have them just give an overview of the committee and some of the things that they do, identify some of the successes they have, challenges, and see if there's anything that we could glean or get from their experience that we can apply to our situation. So we are very happy to have with us some representatives from that subcommittee. And I'm not going to try and introduce everyone. So I'm going to let that team introduce themselves. But I do know Joe Castillo and Lee Zutz are here, and I'll let either both of them or one of them introduce the rest of the team.
Hi, Ashanti. This is Joe Castillo. I am the Interim Contract Compliance Supervisor with OCR, for those of you who don't know me. And I will pass it to Lee, who can quick introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. This is Lee Zutz, and I am the Interim Program Operations Manager from the Office of Civil Rights. And I will pass it back to Joe to do the presentation.
Great. Thanks, Lee. So good afternoon, everybody. As Ashanti said, we're here kind of at the invitation of this group to provide some insight into the Results and Transparency Work Group. Specifically, we're really going to start things off with just sort of a high-level overview of the meetings organized by our office. Slide, please. So at its core, MnDOT's Office of Civil Rights is committed to ensuring equal opportunity for all businesses and personnel on agency projects. OCR itself has 3 divisions: business and program development, small business contracting, and equal employment opportunity. The contract compliance team manages the EEO program. They're also tasked with monitoring contractor adherence to the state's workforce participation goals, really seeking to ensure that contractors are making those good faith efforts to, not just recruit and hire and train, but also that retention piece, individuals from historically underrepresented communities. So one of the ways in which, the contract compliance team works to meet this vital, really objective is organizing meetings of the Results and Transparency Work Group, which I'm just going to call RT meetings from here on out, just for sake of brevity. So really kind of what's the best way to the framework within which to look at these RT meetings. In my mind, it's really to look no further than those 5 W's we all learned in grade school: the who, what, when, where, and why, but maybe just in a little bit different order. Slide, please. So the first step in understanding the RT meetings is to provide some insight into what they are, or in other words, kind of their origin and the mandate. So the Results and Transparency Work Group itself is a subcommittee of the MnDOT DBE and Workforce Collaborative, which actually just met this morning. So for those of you unfamiliar with the collaborative, as it's commonly known, it's comprised of a group of stakeholders committed to this kind of common vision of having DBE contractors and minority and female workforce participation in the industry really reflect the true demographics of the state of Minnesota. And as to membership in the collaborative, it includes, but it really isn't limited to, representatives from state government, contractors, DBEs, unions, representatives from workforce developers and training programs, community orgs, and employment advocacy organizations. Next slide, please. So the next step in understanding the RT meetings is maybe a little bit closer look at the logistics, specifically kind of getting back to those W's. I talked about the who, when, and where. As to when the RT meetings are held, they occur the fourth Wednesday of each month from 2:30 to 3:30. And as to location or the where, pre-COVID, we held the meetings at Summit Academy OIC in Minneapolis. Participants were able to call in via a dedicated phone line if they weren't able to attend in person. But the reality is after the pandemic hit, just like this meeting, we were forced to move to an online format, which we're still operating in. And as to the who attends RT meetings, the audience typically averages around, I want to say 25 to 35 people. And it's stakeholders from different industry groups. As you can see there, there's community organizations, contractors, government agencies, business or employment advocates. We've got tribal employment rights officers who attend, or TARO officers, union representatives. And it's really one thing to note, the meetings are open to the public, so the backgrounds of the attendees can vary. Slide, please. So kind of having established that who, what, when, and where of the RT meeting, we still have to look at the why. Kind of specifically, why do we have the RT meetings? And the reasons are really twofold, excuse me. First of which is we use them as a method, or sorry, a forum through which to review and monitor various projects' workforce participation goals and the contractor progress towards meeting those goals. And secondly, we use them as a forum to provide consultation, support to contractors and MnDOT when those workforce participation goals aren't being met. And I want to take a minute to pause here just to talk a little bit about the workforce participation goals I just referenced. This might be common knowledge for many of you, but I really just want to make sure everybody's on the same page in terms of understanding before we continue, as the workforce participation goals play such a prominent role in our RT meetings. Slide, please. So set by MDHR, these workforce participation goals really reflect a percentage of the total labor hours to be performed by people of color and women on highway projects. And they were established to reduce employment barriers, respond to demographic shifts, and help prepare for a looming workforce shortage. And three things to really take away about the goals. They're aspirational, not a quota. They attach to all contracts over $100,000, and they are applied on a county by county basis. So as you can see from that graphic there, the goals differ throughout the state, 32% for people of color, 20% for women in Hennepin and Ramsey counties, 22% for people of color, 15% for women in those outer ring suburbs. That's, Anoka, Carver, Dakota, Scott, Washington, and then 12% for people of color, 9% for women in northern Minnesota, and so on and so forth. So the numeric differences that you're seeing here really reflect a host of factors taken into account by MDHR when originally setting those goals, things like population density, demographics. And I have here in my notes that you can always visit the MDHR website for more information, but you can also appeal to the experts we have right now on this phone call with Elaine and Salima. So next slide, please. So I mentioned back a couple slides that one of the primary objectives of the RT meetings is to review and monitor the workforce participation goals, contractor performance towards meeting those goals. So a question that kind of arises is, how do we determine which projects we're going to review and monitor for workforce goals performance, given that there can be hundreds in any given year? So when we select projects to review and monitor via the results and transparency meetings, we typically look for projects that have significant employment opportunities, high dollar value, you'll see the 5 million plus, have a high public profile or some combination kind of thereof. And one thing worth noting is that all projects with on-the-job training goals, located on tribal lands, or with workforce plans are automatically selected for monitoring or inclusion on the RT spreadsheet. And when I say workforce plan here, I'm referencing this kind of, for some of you who don't know, it's a 3+ page document that is designed to help contractors, excuse me, reach the workforce goals. That has to be submitted by the prime anytime an apparent low bid is 5 million or more. So to really kind of put things in perspective, the contract compliance team reviewed and monitored around 70 projects across the state via our RT meetings during the 2020 season. Slide, please. So how are the projects monitored? So once we do that kind of analysis that I just went through, we do the following. We can gather through our internal tracking payroll and hiring system, ADJOURN, we can gather project payroll and workforce data, and we can also gather information on workforce and payroll from monthly employment compliance reports. We call them EEO 13s. We collect these from local public agencies for federally funded state aid projects. Gather all that data, we populate the spreadsheet that you see kind of in that small graphic there before you, and then we present that at the RT meeting. Next slide, please. So let's take a look at the spreadsheet itself. As you can see, in real life, it's a pretty sizable document as well. But at its core, the spreadsheet really provides a summary of a contractor's performance, the prime contractors towards the applicable workforce goals for a select projects over the preceding 3 months. And the idea here is that when we focus on this 90-day time frame, it allows us to sort of look at it and identify trends, or better analyze the overall effectiveness of contractor diversification efforts. Maybe take a look and say what's working, what's not for somebody. So breaking it down, I don't have the ability to move my mouse, but you'll see that front section there in kind of the pale blue. That's project information. That's where you're going to find things like the district in which the project is located, project number, location, who the prime is, when it was let, the estimated start and end dates, the value of the project, and the percent complete, which is a percentage of the total project value that's been paid out to contractors. And if you look closely in that screenshot there, you'll see there are some orange boxes, and those delineate that those state aid projects that I had referenced earlier. And if you take kind of next to that pale blue, it's real hard to make out, but in that column there, you'll see the workforce goals and commitments. So the goals that are applied to the particular project, as well as the prime's committed goals for people of color and women. And so that kind of references back to that workforce plan I had mentioned, that 3+ page document that prime contractors have to submit anytime their parent low bid is 5 million or more. As part of that, they need to make a commitment as to the project, how they're going to do towards the goals, that sort of thing. So moving on from there, you will see the most recent 3 months of data at any given time. Those numbers are really broken down by total number of hours on the project, total number of hours worked by people of color. You can kind of make it out there. The gray shows the people of color hours, and the yellow shows the women hours, as well as the total percentages worked by people of color and women on each project. And if there's a green box there, that's going to indicate that the contractor is meeting their goal or the MDHR goal. And if it's a red box, it's going to indicate that they're meeting neither their commitment or the MDHR goal for the process, or sorry, excuse me, for the project. And it's worth noting too, we've changed it since this point. You don't see it here, but if the contractor is within like less than 1% of meeting the goal, it'll be a yellow, just to make things a little easier to read, because it's a lot of information on one spreadsheet. So slide, please. So it's worth noting that, in addition to reviewing the spreadsheet, the contract compliance team also uses the RT as sort of a forum to address a host of other topics. Staffing and administrative updates, current events, and discussion topics. So for example, last summer following the murder of George Floyd, we checked in with the contractors who attend to see what they were doing to support employees and how it was important to check in with them and provide them with this safe place to talk. And used it as sort of a springboard to talking about how, inequity exists in all systems and industries, construction included, certainly not immune. And that's why we have the workforce goals and the EEO regs and why it's so important to create that respectful workplace. We'll also talk about updates on major projects. That's like your 35W at 94. I'm sure you've all read about in the paper, or some of you are probably working on it. 35 MnPass, those sorts of things. We do OJT updates, support services training announcements, calendar of events. We have a contractor toolkit feature where we'll discuss various compliance topics, receive updates from other collaborative subcommittees, and just sort of anything else that happens to come up. Sometimes we have guest speakers as well. Next slide, please. So what's one word to really summarize results in transparency? It's accountability. One of the points we really try to get across in meetings is that this accountability for meeting the goals doesn't necessarily start and end with the prime contractors either. The subs can and really have to contribute towards these goals, and we strive to make it clear that we have tools at our disposal to help the primes, to help hold the subcontractors accountable. We can run detailed workforce project reports for contractors. All they really need to do is ask. Next slide, please. So real quickly, in addition to the spreadsheet, contract compliance team provides various reports at the RT meetings at designated intervals or maybe just upon request during the year. In general, we feel like these reports have been well received by our stakeholders, but the consensus kind of being that, this type of data publication, it enhances transparency and it promotes accountability. And from our perspective, taking these steps towards expanded reporting has helped us ensure compliance with EEO rules and regs. It helps, can help us address matters proactively, and really it helps build stronger relationships with parties inside and outside the agency. I'll briefly kind of run through, there are several of them. I just put some snapshots up here. In the interest of time, I'll just kind of move through them quickly. The Workforce Plan Progress Report, which you'll see there, that details all the hours worked by a prime and its subs, comparing the percentages of hours worked by people of color and women to the workforce commitments made in the workforce plan. We'll go over one of these every month during the RT meeting. We'll just kind of select a project at random and go through it. District averages, we provide these. They provide monthly workforce participation averages, straight and cumulative, for women and people of color in each MnDOT district. Next slide, please. The workforce data reports, that summarizes the performance towards the workforce goals for projects of significant public interest. It's very similar to that workforce plan progress report we saw before. Actually, it's almost identical, but we typically like to run these and always provide them on these big projects. Like you'll see there, this one's for MnPass at each meeting. And the on-the-job program summary, we provide this once a year. It's a breakdown of the OJT trainees by ethnicity, gender, trade, support services, graduates, that sort of thing. This one has been particularly interesting because it's kind of led to the, what I want to say, development of more sub-reports. So it's turned out to be very valuable. Next slide, please. And lastly, a couple more reports we provide annually was this contractor workforce participation. That summarizes the top 10 contractors' performance towards the workforce participation goals on MnDOT projects awarded by year. Here we determine the 10 contractors awarded. They're really the contractors that award the highest amount of MnDOT projects over the time span are the 10 that get selected for this. And we break it down on a pretty granular level. So performance is kind of measured by year, both individually and cumulatively. So, and moving on, the district workforce participation, that's very similar. to the contractor workforce participation report. It summarizes the performance of each MnDOT district towards the workforce participation goals, and performance is measured year by year. Similarly, again, kind of getting to that granular level by project, individually, cumulatively. So, next slide, please. So, as Ashanti said, we were asked to identify some of the challenges and some of the successes that we've had with the RT meetings. So starting with the challenges, subcontractor participation, is that sometimes, there's this misconception among subcontractors that the workforce goals apply to the prime contractor, given that they're the ones that executed, the contract with MnDOT. There's that privity of contract between those two entities that doesn't really extend to them. So it was really because of this that we took steps like creating that workforce plan progress report, which I discussed just a bit ago. The reality, however, is that, even with these steps, we still sometimes encounter that lack of awareness or participation. So it's just kind of I wouldn't say a struggle, but it's something that we have to continue to work to improve. Workforce participation goals, horizontal versus vertical. There still seems to be kind of this ongoing debate sometimes as to the goals themselves, several years after the fact now. We're still hearing people saying that, perhaps the goals for horizontal and vertical should be separate, to reflect kind of the reality of their respective industries. I guess the argument here is that maybe the goal should be lower for horizontal or highway heavy, given things like the greater turnover, the hiring difficulties encountered, given to things like the long hours, the grueling nature of the work, the remote work locations, and sort of by extension that lack of access to childcare and transportation. So it's a debate we still see low these many years. Difficult conversations in an open forum is another challenge we encounter. So I mentioned earlier how we often have, discussion topics centered around important but still sometimes sensitive issues in our meetings. Maybe it's something about maintaining a respectful workplace. What are you doing to do that? Or your recruitment efforts, that sort of thing. But, unfortunately, sometimes our efforts to facilitate this sort of meaningful dialogue are met with silence. So it's a challenge we face, is kind of how to overcome these reservations and come together to discuss these potentially difficult topics in an open forum. So, and finally, external reporting capabilities. That's one of the biggest challenges we face. When I say that, I mean that contractors aren't currently able to run a lot of the reports I just showed you, or even other ones that we have that they could run to show workforce participation numbers. That being said, we can and we do run them for them wherever we can. There's just, a reality that if they were able to do it themselves, I think it would really help and enhance accountability. And it's something that we've heard from several of our partners in the contracting community. Slide, please. So kind of on the flip side of that, some of the successes that we've seen with RT, enhanced transparency for the community. The reality is that Minnesotans, they're always going to want to know about things like road closures and detours, but now they're wanting to know more about the actual road projects themselves, including, who's doing that work. So the RT meetings are kind of just one way in which we, as an agency, can meet that demand. So put another way, it's like giving the community the chance to ask contractors the important questions. So the next point was contractors having workforce conversations internally and with their subs. This is significant because it means, the RT meetings are having this intended result of creating accountability to some degree. And why that's significant is because when there's accountability, it means organizations are going to respond, they're going to take action, and by doing so, the response becomes sort of institutionalized. So in other words, like issues like EEO or diversity in hiring are no longer relegated to kind of this like fringe status for an organization, but rather they become part of their best business practices. So that's an incredibly encouraging development to see. Contractors requesting compliance guidance. We've really kind of beefed up our compliance documentation over the last few years. And as a result, we're seeing more and more contractors reach out to us about compliance, whether that's asking for documents or just conversations. And that, of course, is significant because, a natural byproduct of being compliant is that you're going to be making those good faith efforts to recruit, hire, train, and retain women and people of color. And finally, contractors requesting assistance with the diversification of their recruitment efforts. We're just seeing more and more contractors request things like the workforce directory we create each year, or reaching out to us to talk about the hiring process, reaching out for individual assistance. I think in, this past season alone, I've had 2 or 3 reach out to me on their own, and that's something that, in years prior I hadn't seen. So that's an extremely encouraging development. So that's an overview of our results and transparency meetings. Thank you guys for the opportunity and for presenting. And with that, I think I'll hand things back over to Ashanti.
Thank you, Joe. We're going to open it up to questions, and we've already started to get some questions in the chat. So I am going to go with the first question that we received in the chat from Maura relative to the 35W project. And I think Lee kind of I'll read the question. Just to walk through the approach that the subcommittee took relative to 35W because of the scale of the project, and it is a pilot project status. So it's a good project to kind of parallel to this committee, which is tracking only one project.
All right, yeah. Is there any way, can I steal the screen from whoever's transferring it or showing it? Is that okay? To show something?
I don't know if we want you to steal it, Lee, but we'll let you borrow it.
Okay, sounds good. I'll do that. Okay, I'm just pressing it right now. Let me know once you can see it.
Got it.
Okay. So this, one of the questions was about the 35W at 94 project. And something we did a little bit differently with this project is we included the collaborative. It was the second pilot project that the one of the collaborative subcommittees worked on. And we first hired a certified small business, which is Zan Associates, to conduct targeted outreach along the corridor. So even before the project started, we had been doing outreach and attending different events to kind of recruit people to work on the project, inform them about the project, and do other outreach methods. So another thing that made this project different was the best value approach, which is a contracting or procurement method. And what it is that it's a way to score contractor proposals for various technical aspects on the project. And the new item was workforce diversity and then also small business inclusion on it. So if you can see my screen, I'm going to zoom in. And how it's a little bit different is that the contractors bidding or submitting their proposal for the project actually came up with these, not MnDOT. So Ames, Lunda, Schaefer, so you're familiar with all of them, they actually, they're a joint venture and they came up with these commitments, which was a community-based outreach event at the startup and annual during the life of the project. Quarterly job fairs at Sabathani, which is in the corridor. However, since COVID, they've moved them to online and different methods. They are doing conference calls with all the subcontractors that are working on the project to discuss workforce and on-the-job training. They are doing on-site diversity and inclusion training and spot checks, kind of like what was discussed during the call today. And then they committed to 32% people of color and 6.9% women. And just a reminder, this project was, they submitted their proposals prior to that 2017 workforce goals change. So just keep that in mind with those numbers. For their small business participation, for their small business contracting, they were breaking out smaller scope packages for bid solicitation and providing easy access to the documents. They identified small business mentors and liaisons. They assisted small businesses in overcoming challenges such as obtaining bonding, lines of credit, insurance, equipment, supplies, materials, etc. What you are all talking about, which is also an issue on for the MnDOT side, is the prompt payment to small businesses that everyone was talking about earlier, and then also hosting monthly workshops to promote a culture of success. So those were the commitments. And then moving on to training, which is done through MnDOT, is the on-the-job training supportive services program, which our office partners with unions, community-based organizations, tribes, contractors, different training organizations to provide highway heavy construction training. So for example, in calendar year 21, to date, MnDOT has put on with all these partners 6 highway heavy construction training programs, and we've trained about 60 or enrolled 60 people in them. So for example, we have a couple commercial driver's license trainings going on for 12 weeks. We did carpentry, welding, laborers, an introduction to highway heavy carpentry. So those are just a few examples of the trainings that our office is putting on right now. Does anyone have any questions about the 35W project? No? All right, I'll just
Yes.
show, oh, go ahead, Ashanti.
Since I was waiting to make sure that the committee to ask questions, you talked about these trainings at the end. That's also something we are talking about and struggling with on this project in terms of, you know, the council has invested resources into a training program called Building Strong Communities. And we are having challenges in terms of making sure that, you know, not only folks from Building Strong Communities and some of our community-based organizations that are part of this committee, getting people onto our projects and specifically this project. Can you talk about how many in terms of either people or hours from those training programs are actually working or have worked on the project? Or was that 60 that you talked about?
Oh, for the 35W project specifically?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, what Ashanti is talking about is the goal he came up with while at MnDOT. I'm going to scroll in on this document. So one additional item that I actually didn't mention was we had an on-the-job training goal on this project, but in addition to our on-the-job training goal, we had an on-the-job supportive services training goal. So if you can see on the screen, the goal is to have, of those people that went through those MnDOT funded training programs, the goal was to have about 56,520 hours completed by those individuals that completed the programs. So as of, we ran these numbers on July 12th, and so far 21 of the people who graduated from those programs have worked 33,815 hours on this project over the last 4 years.
If no one else has a question right now, I wanted to comment, this is Maura, that from a community perspective, another thing that was different was because of those weekly calls between the subcontractors, the prime contractors, and MnDOT staff, the data that we saw as a community was disaggregated. We could see the workforce participation, not just of the primes, but of everybody on the project in real time. And I think a lot of things that would have otherwise gone unseen and unflagged and unresolved got worked out in some of those regular calls between all those contractors and staff.
Yes, thanks for that, Maura. In addition to that, we also did discuss it at the results and transparency meeting itself. So not only were those calls occurring, then the specialist for the project would report back everything that was discussed during those meetings to the full results and transparency meeting. So thanks for adding that, Maura.
Hello, this is Marvin from the National Association of Minority Contractors. Can you hear me?
Hi, Marvin. Yes, we can.
I just want to respond to what you were saying there with regards to the training. When I listen to the training that MnDOT's providing, I think it's awesome. But my question, and it's kind of a comment too, is I think we may be able to find more success if we offer, some a training that are in the area of less skilled, like grubbing, clearing, potholes, guardrails, manhole covers, removals, stuff that is easy to teach to people, number one. And then my comment would be, it may be, if that was an approach, it may be even more effective to hire minority-owned companies to be a part of that training. So not only are minority-owned companies learning how to do that stuff, the owners can do that stuff themselves, but they can continue to train people from the community, which I think would be a more efficient pathway to increasing workforce on, some MnDOT projects and just some of the transportation departments throughout the different cities and counties.
Yes, thanks for that, Marvin. We are actually on the same page. What I was showing you is the on-the-job training supportive services. So it's like similar to the workforce, what we're discussing today. So what Marvin's referring to is our small business supportive services. And his idea is actually in line of what we just submitted to the Federal Highway Administration to receive funding for. And I actually did a phone a friend to Mr. Payne a couple weeks ago before we submitted it. So some of those scopes that you're talking about, the scopes of work and training small businesses, we actually just submitted a plan to hopefully receive some funding to do that.
Okay, and then my last comment is I absolutely would like to see the National Association of Minority Contractors play a key role in that, because what we know is if minority businesses can get more efficient and proficient in certain trades, that they go on to hire people from the community. And again, I think that increases that workforce, I think, at a lot more rapid rate than what we're currently seeing. So I just want to go on record as wanting to put our hat in the ring, if you will.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And after I shared my screen, I can't see if there are any other questions.
Yes, we have a couple.
I lost the chat.
Yes, we have a couple in the chat. So let me see. One question from Leslie Woye. How long will MnDOT wait to see if what you've implemented is working and or needs tweaking?
We've actually already started implementing some of the things that have worked on other contracts, and we call them our extra special provisions. So we've actually taken some of the feedback we've received from 35W on this project that we had just talked about and incorporated it into about 4 other projects, which we tried to spread out throughout the state. So we had the 35 MnPass project. We did the highway, we're doing the highway, so for that project, we're doing construction site tours, a call, kind of similar to that because we received good feedback about that. We're doing a Highway 200 project on Leech Lake Reservation, where we are providing incentives for contractors, monetary incentives for contractors to hire from local tribes. And then we just finished up the Wilmer Y project that ended last week for those biweekly calls and other workforce strategies on that project. And we can send that to you, Leslie, as well.
All right, we have one more question from Kendra Crone. Joseph, how can small subcontractors be expected to contribute to the workforce goals when they do not have openings in their crews because they have operated with the same crew long-term and do not have issues with employee retention, especially when a majority of these small contractors work all over the state but headquarter in outer areas where the workforce availability for POC and women is even lower than the metro areas?
Sorry, that was hard to follow, Shanti. This is for Joe?
I guess it is, but I think that the gist of the question is, I think most of us already know that the small subcontractors are not going to have a significant impact on the overall workforce, especially on a large project. So I guess, is that your expectation, or is that not a good assumption to have, that you expect the small, not the large subcontractors, but small subcontractors to have a significant impact on the workforce participation goals? Is that an expectation that you have?
Can I speak to that?
Sure, go ahead, Maura.
Thanks, Lee. I thought one of the things that was good about the way the 35W was done is by having the primes say up front what their goal was going to be, how they were going to meet the goal. Then they had the conversation with subcontractors. If subcontractors couldn't provide any people of color hours, then that needed to be made up somewhere else in the workforce. And if you know all of that at the beginning, it's accepted that there may be some contractors that don't contribute to the BIPOC hours, but then other contractors figure out how to compensate for that. That's how I saw it working. Back to you, Lee.
Yeah, yep, that's consistent with like the overall project and how MnDOT evaluates it. Let's say, for example, we're looking into the good faith efforts of a small business and you're not hiring. We may ask you, okay, if you do have a position open, where in your area would you recruit from to try to recruit women or people of color? And if you don't know, we have a workforce directory that we can send you. So then you do have a plan if you do end up having an opening.
Thank you. We just have about a minute left, maybe a time for one question if somebody has one. But if not, I really appreciate the MnDOT folks and the folks from the committee that are either online coming to our committee meeting today and sharing with us some of those successes, especially. And it's good to also see that, that we have some of the same common challenges and that there may be areas where we can work together to address some of those common challenges. So again, thank you, Lee and your team. Joseph, really appreciate the time in the good conversation. And hopefully we can learn from this and apply some of those things moving forward. And with that, we will adjourn. And our next DWOC meeting is August 19th. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you then.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you all.